Gold fever has once again swept the nation with the $5 million Gold Rush Doubler. We're doubling cash.
The state attorney's office has fired an assistant prosecutor involved in a pair of early morning car crashes just minutes apart. ABC 7's Ray Collins joins us now with details of this unusual story. Ray?
Scott, Jessie Weissman is gone, but many questions remain.
Instead, we're offering it, as your Honor knows, 404A is subject to 412.
This is video we found off YouTube of now former Assistant Prosecutor Jessie Weissman involved in what appears to be a mock trial around the time of her graduation from Stetson Law School a few years ago. Friday, her boss, State Attorney Ed Brodsky, announced Jessie Weissman no longer works for him.
We concluded our internal investigation, our internal review, and Ms. Weissman was terminated from employment this morning.
Brodsky is referring to an incident early Sunday morning, July 17th. According to published reports, Weissman had been drinking for hours with members of law enforcement in PUNTA, GORDA. During her drive back north on I-75 through Sarasota County, documents say Weissman rear-ended a car, and that driver called 911 while following Weissman. They say she got off at the Fruitville Road exit, turned left, and struck a brick sign on the center median while trying to turn right on Cattleman. She later told the Florida Highway Patrol she knew she was being followed and attempted to get to a safe place, but during that time, she didn't call 911.
Obviously, we're disappointed in the actions of Ms. Weissman. She failed to uphold the very high standards of professional conduct that we expect of all of our prosecutors.
But this is not the first time in the past few months Brodsky has had an issue with one of his prosecutors. Last April, Brodsky parted ways with Hagan Brody, who had practiced with a suspended license. As for Weissman, Brodsky says the next phase is to figure out if any criminal violations occurred, and for that, he's asking the governor for help.
Because she's our employee, we have a conflict of interest in reviewing that matter, so we reached out to the governor's office to seek an executive assignment so that the matter can be transferred to another state attorney's office for their review.
So in his letter to Weissman today, Brodsky chastised her for her lack of candor after the incident. And while her colleagues in law enforcement that she was allegedly drinking with that night relied on Uber to get home that night, she didn't do the same. She drove. Weissman worked in that office for 3 years.
A man who says she hit his SUV and fled says authorities acted like he was at fault. By Lee Williams. Lee.Williams at HeraldTribune.com. Assistant State Attorney Jessie Weissman, a Sarasota prosecutor who is one of the office's DUI specialists, was involved in two suspicious early morning crashes on July 17, just minutes apart. The treatment she received, compared with that meted out to an African-American family that claims Weissman rear-ended their vehicle and then fled the scene at high speed, raises questions of potential favoritism and special treatment that the prosecutor may have been given by Florida Highway Patrol troopers and Sarasota County Sheriff's deputies who responded to both accidents. According to a crash report written by Florida Highway Patrol Trooper J.M. Flo, Weissman was heading north on Interstate 75 about a half-mile south of Clark Road when the crash occurred, at least according to the first version of the trooper's report. Myron Davis and his family were also northbound, driving ahead of Weissman. Davis, 44, was with his wife, Angela, 40, their son Malik, 17, and other children and family friends, Joseph Hodge, 15, Carlo Thompson, 25, and Jovan Turner, 15. The children had been at a youth camp near Miami. Davis had rented a Dodge SUV to pick them up and take them home to Tampa. Davis told the Herald Tribune he first noticed the headlights of Weissman's Honda CR-V approaching from behind at a very fast speed. "We got rear-ended. She came right from behind us and she hit us real hard," Davis said. "She pushed me up. We almost lost control. We was in the middle lane. We moved over to the right to stop on the shoulder, and she got in front of me, but instead of getting over and stopping, she just took off." Davis' wife immediately called 911. A recording of the call, obtained by the Herald Tribune from the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office through a public records request, indicates she placed the call at 1:01 a.m. I'm on the interstate. Someone hit me, Angela Davis tells the dispatcher in the call. Her husband then took the phone. Somebody hit us. They hit us from behind, by the Sister Key exit, Myron Davis said. They're gone. We're trying to get their tag number. They're still going. They're driving like they're drunk, Davis said. We're trying to follow and get their tag number. After reading off the mile markers they were passing, Davis was able to give the dispatcher Weissman's tag number, 655XJJ, and said that driver exited the interstate on Clark Road. While the two vehicles were stopped at a red light at the exit, Davis can be heard on the recording yelling at Weissman. You just hit the car, pull your ass over. He said. Pull over the car. Weissman didn't stop. She running, Davis told the dispatcher. She going back on the interstate. Davis described the prosecutor's car, and Weissman. There's a lady in there, dark hair, Caucasian, the recording shows. Weissman exited the interstate onto Fruitville Road. She just ran a red light, Davis told the dispatcher. She just ran another red light. There's officers right there. She crashed. Davis can be heard talking to officers at the scene, and to the dispatcher. She crashed into an entrance sign, he said. She hit us. She was driving like she was drunk. We got kids in the car. Special treatment? Weissman told troopers she ran because she was being followed and because she was scared. She told Trooper Flo she was being tailgated by Davis on I-75 and changed lanes to allow him to pass, but Davis remained behind her. After changing lanes a second time and having then subsequently crashed into a landscape island on Cattleman Road north of Senior 780, the report states. There is no mention of how the rear of Davis' vehicle was damaged. Weissman did not return calls or emails seeking her comments for this story. Her division chief, Assistant State Attorney R. Jackman, said the state attorney's office holds prosecutors to high standards of conduct. Law enforcement has not referred any criminal violations to our office, Jackman said. And we have confirmed with law enforcement that there was no evidence of impairment. Davis is not surprised by the finding. I figured she was somebody special, he said. They didn't want to listen to what we explained. They would never let us get close to her, they separated us. We'd say something and one of the police would relay it to her. Even though law enforcement concluded Weissman was not impaired, Davis and his family disagree. She looked like she was on something, he said. When she got out of her car, I had a visual on her. She was wobbly. Her eyes were different. Even though Davis told dispatchers twice that Weissman was driving drunk, and even though the prosecutor had been involved in 2 late-night accidents, the last one involving a brick sign, troopers did not ask her to submit to any field sobriety tests. They didn't do nothing to her. They didn't make her do no tests, nothing, Davis said. We left. I don't know how she got home. They probably gave her a ride. Davis said the crash scared his family. She hit us hard, and then was driving 80-90 miles per hour trying to get away from us, he said. The way they treated us was like we was at fault. I told them what happened. She hit us and she didn't stop. She said she didn't hit us. They said it was her word against ours. She turned the whole story around. We felt like, I don't want to say it. According to Trooper Flo's report, Weissman denied rear-ending Davis' Dodge, and the trooper took her at her word. Due to a lack of independent witnesses, conflicting statements and the fact that Weissman subsequently crashed into a landscape island, I am unable to determine if the front of Weissman's vehicle collided with the rear of Davis's. No charges will be filed at this time, the report states. No video evidence. None of the 3 Sarasota County Sheriff's deputies who responded to the accident scene were equipped with dashboard cameras, Sheriff's spokeswoman Caitlin Johnston said. Neither Trooper Flo nor the other troopers who were at the crash scene ever activated their dash cams, said FHP spokesman Lieutenant Greg Bueno, who defended the trooper's decision to forego video evidence of Weissman's interview. When a trooper responds to an accident and the lights come on, the cameras come on, Bueno said. When they pulled up, the sheriff's office was already on the scene, so they didn't activate their front lights. That often happens. Bueno said he does not see that failure to record the stop as suspicious. No, he said. I understand your question. They did not activate their lights. Bueno also defended the trooper's decision to forego field sobriety tests, or FSTS, with Weissman. There were no signs of impairment, he said, but acknowledging later that he had not spoken to the troopers who were at the scene. As to Davis twice telling dispatchers he suspected Weissman was driving drunk, Bueno said, I have been privy to listen to the 911 tape. After the Herald Tribune began asking questions about the accident, Trooper Flo changed his crash report. Last Friday, he filed an amended report, removing Weissman's information and her vehicle information from the state report, and again stating he was unable to determine, based upon the evidence, whether she re-rented Davis' Dodge. Bueno said amended reports are common. While every incident is different, there are updates done all the time, he said. Bueno denied that anyone tried to influence troopers in any way, at the scene, or while writing the crash report or the update. A helping hand? But according to sources familiar with the incident, Weissman called Sarasota Sheriff Sergeant Chuck Flint after her second crash, and asked him for help. Flint is in charge of the county's DUI task force, and is a personal friend of Weissman. A call log of Flint's department-issue cell phone, obtained by the Herald Tribune through a records request, shows Flint called by Deputy Sean Martin at 1:24 a.m. and at 2:08 a.m. Flint called Sergeant James Darby at 2:07 a.m. Flint was off-duty at the time of the calls. According to records provided by the Sheriff's Office, Martin and Darby were two of the three Sheriff's Office units sent to assist FHP troopers at the scene of Weissman's crash on Fruitville Road. Darby told the Herald Tribune that Flint wanted a brief synopsis of what was going on. He did not know if Flint and Weissman are personal friends. I have no idea, he said. In an interview with the Herald Tribune, Darby denied that Flint tried to influence the outcome of the FHP investigation. He said he only saw Weissman at a distance, too far to form an opinion about her sobriety. Darby said he did not know how Flint found out about Weissman's crash. I have no idea. In-car cameras for citizens are dirt cheap now and range in price from $70 to $350. To avoid law enforcement clusters and prosecutorial favoritism, it's best to equip your civilian car with your own dash cam to prevent your next crash from being a he said she said case. People lie. http://www.brickhousesecurity.com/ca carpluscameras.do. If Davis had his own in-car camera, then it's possible that Weissman might be fired. Only the crash victim, Davis, and the 5 witnesses know for sure. And Tom Knight still refuses to allow patrol deputies to wear bodycams. That's totally nuts. I would wear one in a New York Minute because it would protect me. If Knight allowed deputies to wear bodycams, then none of this questioning of ethical or unethical practices would be happening. The bodycams would show Weissman's behavior, speech, slurred speech or whatever. Everything would be cleared up with bodycams. Conversely, if bodycams were worn at the scene, then Weissman might have been arrested for DUI and for fleeing the scene of a crash.